All right, we are live. I am Richard Millett. This is the quarantine stream. This is the fifth one. And let's have that theme music. Uh, tis like the singing of the angels. Um, we'll fuck around with that later. All right, got a lot to do. I get plow through a lot of material today. So this is called Flowers at the Foot of the Cave. Swinging light bulb above a. Let's start over. Swinging light bulb above a cracked basement window, a painting depicting the creation of creation, and a makeshift bed. I made up a new name for you that I'll only keep in my head. My head. Look at the jewel resting in the bottom of the wooden cup, or the stack of handwritten sheets explaining the steps of the ritual in rich, deep red, and the names of everyone there exist in my head. My head. Charcoal renderings of saints ripped from a magazine and pinned to the door, dented bits of metal shaped to make a mosaic and pushed into the floor. Quarter-inch thick spray-painted silver ribbons looped like ringlets in the air, and the floating stray white veins from a feather landing on your hair. Here I sit half childish, with freshly washed clothes strewn over the chair. A tray with orange peels, melon rinds, and empty glasses rests balanced on the table's edge, while I'm reading a map leading to a room more colorful than the womb, where I can overhear things other than gurgling and organs rushing. But still, this will always be in its infancy, because love is where Genesis greets infinity, and for proof you can look in my eyes, even though I won't confirm or deny how much of this is true, but I trust that will get worked out by you. Okay. This is one that the last couple weeks I haven't gotten to. I wanted to read again. It was cut off during, I think, the second broadcast. And it's one that I like quite a lot. Um, the gestation of it was almost about four, 4.5, 5 years. So this is called Blue Soaked Scepter. The kink in my neck that runs to my kidneys, distracting me from movies I've long memorized and repeating quotations I've lived inside of, and I've no desire to rewrite history that doesn't concern me. When what I didn't know already felt familiar, when I saw the inscription on my commemorative plaque had been worn back to smooth silver, when I slipped behind the mist, changed clothes, washed my hands, and shaved, with no light and with no intention of anyone seeing my face for a while. I was willingly walked through a coal-stained city lot and deposited in the back seat of an already running, windowless army green car, which was then locked from the outside. Mary, had I abandoned my practice, committed an indirect affront in my brief absence? My name is Keith. The beggar at my door raised his arm but soft while I listened to his parables that had no center. My name is Luke. With an auspicious mistress beside me, I looked at a baby looking out a window at fluttering street signs. My name is Julia. My temper was gentle as I read a sermon called Are You Here to Celebrate the Death of Death? My name is Giles. I wish that I'd been obscured when my ears were bitten with endearment while I was plainly ignored. My name is Grace. I was observed by 3 people whose accounts proved suggestible and fractured. My name is Abigail. I faced hard construction when I in truth spoke forcefully about my forged fingerprints. My name is Morgan. I spent twilight emptied save for sketching a red tunic on bent paper. My name is Brooke. I was registered in a hotel under an assumed name and made lists of families I pitied. My name is Gabriel. I singed my hair and clothes trying to be recalled. The sky was moonless for 29 nights. Why couldn't I stay? I was bothered by the way the streetlights hit the trees and reflected off the leaves. I took a knife and short length of rope. 6 hours later, I'm waiting for you to arrive, carrying a scepter and wearing a breastplate with frayed shoulder blades and exhausted eyes. I'm waiting for you to arrive, sitting cross-legged on the sodden deck with wayward souls who were barely seen. I leapt off the ledge and was soon out of haunt as I climbed the concave shores, wondering if I should forage, catch a gudgeon, or eat unbruised fruit that had fallen. The gravelly, guttered soil gave way to encroaching forest dense with rows of weighted, wet purple limbs that succumbed to gravity and wind. Then abruptly I was in the center of a champaign, and the only objects I found were short rows of tree stumps and stones, each carved with the query, "What made you look here?" I jaunced away into the odd even and was again pursued by the thicket's reach. The thorns licked my calves, the anthills shone like pebbled glass. I brushed past a frog with a violet tongue and discolored teeth who gulped for relief while his body remained static like a splayed thread in aspic. I made my way into the antres and found myself prating, "Prithee, pray tell what you remember of working your hands into the mud and feeling it curl under your fingernails." It feels like a relic reunited with its original setting after having been figured lost or only seen in a dream. At times I glanced around for the traveling lamp while standing beside the curvature, hearing myself call to datelessly abandon vizards and leasing and be faithfully young-eyed. I returned once more to the champagne and sat among the stones in silence. I received no visions or visitations, no inspiration to invent an incantation, and in this vacuum of communication I only experienced the sense, or perchance suggestion, of the imposing press of eras and atmosphere. And now I noticed this restless weather, shy beams of sunlight moving sideways through the strings of remaining rain. Okay, so this is one I've done a couple times before that I'm quite fond of. It's from a book I did in 2005. It's called Life Isn't Hard. And there's a couple origin stories for this piece. Um, and they're all true. One isn't less valid than the other. So I think I told one of the origin stories before. Anyway, uh, anyway, there was a Saturday Night Live cast member called Tony Rosato, and later on in life got, I don't, it's not a disease, I forget what it's called. It's capgras syndrome, or I forget. I think that's the name of it, but it's CAPGRAS. I know that much. Anyway, uh, I read about the problems that he was having in life, and as a result of this, I think it's a delusion. Actually, the Capgras delusion. So anyway, and the artwork for this book weirdly affected my father, who actually wrote a poem in response, and then threw it out before he read it to me. So I knew actually what it was, but other than he was mystified as to why I chose the artwork that I chose. So anyway, this is called Life Isn't Hard. The hour ends, the light bends down into a bluish brown. This man can program situations from his fingertips into any town. Inch by inch, the ground grows thin. The twin and his father begin to cause alarm. The taxi quits, the street spits its cement in the air, the rider grows quieter, seeing the broken glass hang from her hair. Inch by inch, the ground grows thin. The bankers begin signing citations for fraud. Congratulations around the table. Plans are made to auction any residual minerals. The phone rings. The professor brings flowers to the cement. The student laughs, burns charts and graphs to everyone's amusement. Inch by inch, the ground grows thin. The anchormen begin questioning the cause. I got Earth in a fingertip, the speed of rotation. Did you see the loss of gravity in the city? People's umbrellas and sunglasses floating around. The water was flowing through State Street. People were swimming over the ground. Did you see the cops throw off their badges and dismantle their guns? They got on top of their squad cars, on their knees, worshiping the sun. I got Earth in a fingertip. Fire and holes surround the parched, silent fields of brown, and soon they will be flaming out and leave only a puff of smoke. Merry cries under autumn skies sink the isolated dream and its distanced, blurring view. Nora wrote about a vanished boat that tried to dock off the Irish coast and sailed in between the mists, was never seen again. Replacement folks in their town, the clocks are all tightly wound, and people can't decide if it's illusion or if it's true. But I know there's less of me and almost nothing left of you. The frenzy took over. The reverie increased elucidation. The foundation was accumulated. Okay. Hopefully we don't have connection problems. Last week it seemed as if we were being plagued by them, but then the video turned out okay, so it's always hard to tell. This is because fortunately there aren't time limits here on the quarantine stream. I can do something like this. I did read this piece once before, and I'm sort of surprised that I did it. It actually held people's attention, and I was surprised because I thought it was gonna kind of not go very well. At any rate, this is from a book I put out last year. The book is called Source Mission, and this is called The Needles. The dock 70 feet in back of me as the sun rotated in the cloudless mid-sky. I saw, "You should keep my letter so that it serves as a reminder," carved into a 16-foot long block of pink limestone. In front of me was a sea of black hair and white fabric. A man in iguana-colored boots was a private parade. The air was damp and smelled like salty sediment. A sandpiper coughed into my ear. In prior decades, this would have been a confined testing environment, stacked with medical supplies and sterilized instruments, while bleached cotton strips turned the skin around my nails lighter. Pried out of the wilderness of incestuous dreams, ripped posters, and unreliable oral histories. Deer curled up in sandy, shallow puddles, trails of red ants eating holes through discarded cabbage. Soft green eyes undress uniforms before entrance into a former Methodist church, with baby blue walls and royal blue sacristy doors. Reptile eggs eaten by a small group of women who then wash their hands in citrus-saturated water and wrap their fingers with copper wire. In a monument at dusk, surrounded by silence, outlined with jagged stones and chipped jewelry. Fox hunters riding by with a new hound who they yell at and threaten to whip as each of its tentative selections are rejected. The Lord Mayor's house is built to buttress against resistant forces, all amid a slow, swollen syrup that pools and then runs downhill to the man-made lake. Unobstructed view and pristine wings, piercing siren as though it was a current or a call to worship. A chalice filled with tarantulas, a flagpole wavering in its stand, children's eyes rolling sideways as they travel at unnatural speeds. Cigarette smoke blown into a bowl of strawberries, fingerprints left in wet paint, fresh milk pumped from each breast. My friend who can foresee pregnancy and electricity through a wall as their moods move like montages in a film. My friend without terminology, whose nature is a catapult, who can walk through a maze without a fever. My friend who finds destiny dancing on purple and pink nights with dirt around their ankles. From the upper window, I witnessed a slow splintering of demonic demonstrations. In my right hand were coins melted together. On my feet were shoes of another, as I checked the tags on my clothes to learn my identity. Through the upper window across 7 streets into the parking lot where disused missiles decompose, diagonal gold and gray roads sprayed clean of tar and debris. Low-flying planes obscure the upper window, where a virginity pageant marches from the shower and concludes with forearms rested on the top rung of a ladder. Breathless dizziness, reading large handmade maps, desperate for hydrogen, dull bulbs, and shovels, eyes closed for hours. All deaths are a cataclysm. Rinse the plaque from your mouth. Cut long muslin swaths and give them away. All deaths are a cataclysm. Rinse the cement, don't try to trace ghosts. All deaths are a cataclysm, and what stands are bloody trees deciphering the wordless moans. The invisible dust falling on a table in the woods, swept away in haste. The invisible dust falling on a chain-link fence at the border, wafted away before it rusts. The invisible threads woven around nurses' legs while administering instructions to infants. The invisible threads coursing through fibrous recall. Innocence is wasted on the inexperienced. Each speck is an unnoticed city, an English symmetrical opening. Each strand is a bird on the river in a King's Indian defense. Wax seal stamps poured onto a clock while its mechanism starts surging, go into the unpaved adjacent highways, and remember. Remember for the benefit of whom? The sermon restated to sleeping citizens weary from work. Remember for the benefit of whom? A lion in a tent gnashing the last of its dinner. Remember for the benefit of whom? A slouching passive general, inept at telling a catalog from blueprints. Protective exoskeleton. Exclusive phone book opposite the swimming pool in a home in Beverly Hills constructed in the late 40s. Watery exoskeleton. Fluttering drama as the mounted trophies change colors when passing trains sound their whistles. Sensory exoskeleton in parks of dewy, gently curved hills designed by anxious architects to absorb all tastes and scents. No one reaction or army of thought, no weaning or well-meaning practice can smudge or even expunge the unadorned evidence in the immeasurable elements. And now, a grasp toward a cataract of menstruation, stored in a triptych of cases. Tender veils lift lightly in the breeze, briefly betraying the horse's forward focus. Confirmed miracles in the dial tones droning from underneath the unexplored aisles. A cherry, a maiden, a cup, and I lay down for now, hoping the parcels I sent arrive on time. All right. Oh, we're not supposed to have dead air. Oh, well. Watch something professional, then. This is free. This is called Milky Skies. For 3 weeks, I've seen the sky as one color stretched over a muted spectrum, and I've heard tiny handbells clang at irregular intervals. Without forethought, I was in a state of unstable concentration. With my sense of decency tested, I stared at celeste-colored veins and remembered how they were made. I was reminded of the worm, thankful to be placed back in the dirt after suffering a 2-inch gash on its side from careless shoveling. The youngest lady stops weeping and waiting and steps into invisibility, her velvet-lined pockets filled with small wreaths of braided blue stems. While embarrassed at how much she once admired her mother's brooches, she now fully blushes at her wish to own an ocean full of stone. Her friends repeatedly requested questions, only furthers her hesitation, so she leaves a small note of explanation. Life is grossly inelegant in its demands that one must impatiently forget chores performed with red impressions left intact from knots affixed to ankles and wrists as if the sores never existed. Shock of copper curls, cerulean halos in his eyes, considers his environment, and with his shoulders pinned back, adjusts his balance and stands straight up in the raft. The one idea that has possessed him so vanishes out from his mind, pierces the sea, then its velocity escapes gravity and reaches away past the sky, but he fears no lack of purpose or whether this time has been meaningless. He has total devotion to the base truth of his vocation. His ankles give way and he falls back gently, lands on his hands while some water splashes in. He considers those who would deride his actions and thinks, I don't require any clothes. I'd rather remain naked for everyone. I felt watched when I first voluntarily gave away confidential information, then tried to explain the layout of San Antonio to a stranger who never knew I'd never been there before. And now, as minutes become limitless, any vows I made I always sustained me. I felt watched when my thinking was clean and capable of strict reasoning, and I rode along freshly painted runways, left notes on license plates, brambles, and high chairs, and now, as lassitude disintegrates, any vows I made remain unchanged. I felt watched when my legs were bathed in a heat as persistent and unruly as a bat taunting a seal, repeatedly landing on its shoulder and squealing, and now, as fury impassively fades, any vows I made could never break. I felt watched when I attended 10 drawing classes and attempted to finish a full circle freehand without interference between thought and motion, and now that my hands are patient, any vows I made are everything. Here she flies, and now we know if the promises made more than 10 years ago have been kept. Here she flies, with 2 pens, rosary, brass paperweight, earrings, locket, and measurements written on a business card. Here she flies, gums and hair receded, a miniature brace for a baby wrapped in grayed, hardened plastic. Here she flies with an oxygen tank bubbling ceaselessly, a UHF channel on the television showing an old western silently. Here she flies, while I stand with tentative confirmation, a glass of thickened water, and 3 empty white boxes. Here she flies, with skin like marble over winding staircases, and rooms with seafoam colored walls and intimidating machinery. Um, so this one I'm going to attempt to do. We'll see how it goes. Um, I spent a little bit of time this week trying to find a decent reading copy and was largely unsuccessful. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll see how this goes. I've never read this before. It's important though. This is called My Feelings Are Starting to Merge. Watching everything spreading together, going out further and further, I'm stuttering like a mussel. I sweep and call past the buildings, dousing the ground in water, twisting through stillness and exhaustion. My weight is falling off. The vents in my chest are flooded. My feelings are starting to merge, like where the lawn hits the glacier. Before I go, I don't understand the vampire. I don't understand why the vampire. Jesus Christ. I don't understand why the vampire stood in a brush fire instead of sucking oxygen through the scarecrow's finger. Like Tuesday had stopped, the reverberating door reminded me of a woman that I saw, her features, the replication of a dictionary. The room dripped lemon juice, the furniture was several decades old. The orange light made Baxter's biography easier to read. He'd left me a copy with a note in German. His strewn about equipment played me at different speeds. I finished reading and I spoke too loud for the speaker to receive the signal. Baxter's beard was in the sink. His best friend slept annoyed in the aisle. I felt like I'd gotten married, so I went through your sewing supplies to see if I'd left anything behind. But Teresa isn't here to think these things for me. You played me a private song, and the choruses rolled like rubber. I wondered where the teeth were that I kept on a plate when Teresa held court on the back porch. The late letter looks through a glass door where the gypsies took over and starve for onions while Teresa sketches out an idea. This is the brightest 7 o'clock I've ever seen. The sun won't go down on the buck moon. The buck moon will appear, though, its mercury trails pouring from its craters. The soil touched by its light will become mortar and aluminum, which I'll take and leave in a medicine jar, alongside the liniment and syrup. Baxter leaves, takes his clothes off the wire, while he soaks for an hour or so to calm his superstitions. The buck moon hardly recognizes the branches grown over and draping themselves on the bookshelves. The unicycle was a gift which I quickly hid under the plantation so archaeologists would find it. You've got a stethoscope in your hands and you're forgetting how to talk. I feel your hand on my head again and see the creases in my age. I fall asleep after the international news. It appears I'm being kept open here. I will say this. There was a fellow that I met. His name was Lars Clausen. And Lars Clausen rode a unicycle from Alaska down into California and then across America to Washington, D.C. to raise money. And I think he raised like $300,000 for people who were starving. And then he came to Chicago, and that was when I met him. And he let me have one of the unicycle wheels. It was worn down. The tread was really worn down, and I asked if I could have it, and he seemed pretty delighted to hand it over to me. This is called The New Nature. We know what we've seen, so much more water falling from the sky, making miniature lakes out of puzzles and forming little rivers and gutters. New homes being built where the mudslides ran down the hills, quenching the forest fires. So many new islands and bays for animals to gather together, standing on one foot. New games being played as new trees emerge in marshes and parks form over landing strips. We know what we think about it. Never desecrate the body, never poison the water supply, never bathe in insecticide. See and think. Never barter for bacteria, never throw poison down the well, never desecrate the body. In a glass sink, the water can start to build its own walls and divide its own chromosomes. In a glass shower, the nozzle calcifies the water and organizes the deposits into clear lines. On a glass floor, spilled water pulls away from itself, towards the corners, towards the door. On a glass ceiling, the water can reform into pointless droplet paintings. We know what we see and what we think. So I've been reading mostly newer things. I'm going to pull out an obscurity. Hopefully this will go well. I used to read this one a lot back in the old days. But I haven't read it in ages. Let's see. We'll see how this goes. This is called They Never Felt Sorrow. This is back from 1995. Mind recover recourse cavern, cowlick garlic wrapped in rape, duck blood punching wino porno spinning span spew, lacerating stomach bleeding howling dirge summer camp, bitch boy never ending, never mind, I'm just your soul. Ass preaching psycho dancers wildly flashing life dance, owl slop teasing jeering genocide, clown of fools, crucifixion demigod, good morning, phallic moon, looking lurking thoughts stealing marquee peace lame. Understanding, underhanding, fetal genes, spleen spill, lip smart, claustrophobic exaltation spreading love, semi-happy sleep feather finger grinding sand, carpetbagger through the heart, silver bullet for all to see. Street scene blue jean bow tie syrup cracker kicking speed. Flare monkey overwhelming coffee lush dead unharmed. Roast teeth parking lane culture store house shock. Sleepy diction slicking rabbi madly turned tired heart. Syncopation simulation belt sanding reaping now. OB siren stroll lost forever pointing blank. Flashing flasher abstractly red writ tax void. Corrosion slicing tire brain cell paranoid lumpen self. And we'll do another one from the past, I suppose. This is another one from right around that same time. I later rewrote it and made it better. This is there's a couple from back then that I want to read. It's harder for me to incorporate those. I feel, you know, it's easier to sort of piece together things from a certain time period. At any rate, this is called Yes. The soundscapes fly from dusk, sterility restricted to their thoughts, bleak as the day they were born. But the concrete is in a state of flux, and the forest lies under a soiled blanket of lucid dreams. Pale-faced disintegration in the awestruck, penniless geometric cluster and its meaningless tradition. For some quiet, they'd drink shattered glass. For some peace, they'd murder a stillborn baby. Savages behind closed doors, but who commits treason and defines what's pure? With the precise rhythms and the headache medicine, memories seep through like blood under a fingernail. We never know when it's finished. The wave just rides. Preface to manifest slavery. Entire chapters to write. Planets of aliens to conceive. We never know when it's finished. The wave just rides. Mm. Okay, I think I just figured out a segue. I don't usually have set lists for these things, and it's nice when, you know, it's kind of like 2 weeks ago, last week too, though. But the what I read, it takes on a life of its own, and it's lovely when that happens. This is this is called this is called Sympathy for the Cowboy. Sympathy for the Cowboy, all alone on the range. After the war ended, he was forced to change his name. Sympathy for the Cowboy, holding his dying brother, who begged with his last breath, "Tell mother I died with honor." Sympathy for the meth lab, and all who fight in harm's way, who hope to abolish minimum wage and charge only $15 a day. Sympathy for modern times and those who argue they're right. Sympathy for the victim who has all the laws on their side. Sympathy for the student who's only lived in theory in a hammer and sickle t-shirt, walking away from the barricade. Sympathy for the lawsuit and all who fought for reform. Sympathy for the bumper sticker telling you to be reborn. Sympathy for the stallion running free too wild to ride. And sympathy for the guy who tried. His wife cried, him and his foolish pride. Sympathy for the strawberry and the trial separations, press releases pleading for privacy and doing it for the kids. Sympathy for the nihilist sucking on his cigarette, cutting you off in traffic, no constraints of guilt or regret. Sympathy for the stalker on his computer outside, looking at pictures of you in high school, saving each one, even if it takes all night. Sympathy for the cowboy, whose son moved off the ranch, said he might be coming back soon if there's no change of plans. So true. And with that in mind, I think that it's time to read this one. At some point, I should do more from this book. Um, when I started doing readings again, um, it wasn't long after that I did most of this book all the time. It was, for lack of a better word, it was my set list for the better part of like 2 years. And I've kind of fallen out of the habit of reading things from it, which is a shame because I like it quite a lot, and um, I think that it reads well. So, at any rate, this is a particular favorite of mine. Uh, this is called "Would You Sell the Relics?" The general that only cares about tomorrow also expects everyone to echo the same expression, and when the general can no longer see the power of their influence, then they try to then exert any control over small circumstances under their command, while the brigadier general worries to no one if they need a transfusion. The colonel who's concerned that not enough people's fingerprints matches theirs requires a warning on the front page of each report, along with a summary cut together by a subordinate in a matter of minutes, so they don't have to waste any energy generating contradictory thoughts, while the captain enters their coordinates so their location is known and updated every moment, which leaves the captain free to make discoveries like the wheel or gravity, then sell their findings to the executives or campaign staff of their choice. Urged by a strong sense of benevolence, a tribute to charity as a force. And the first lieutenant's unmatched love of history is proven by the pictures taken of their parents with Goebbels in Brazil in the 70s. And the second lieutenant's jealousy shows and grouses to one, "That's not Goebbels, it's clear it's Martin Bormann." The sergeant major that reset the standards of esprit de corps doesn't know the panic they'll feel a few short years later when they are urged out of the way, or that they'll become stiff with resentment and resolute in their calls for punishment and institute measures to monitor how the company behaves, while the staff sergeant writes on a photo of themselves, "The future points to you," and daydreams about collecting the remaining virginities from the sorority house down the road. And they already have the names, ages, and weights in a frequently updated database. Then the staff sergeant complains about commercials before content. The chief warrant officer, who breaks ranks to research the order the alphabet was created in, gets rueful about seeing themselves age and attending charity events, funerals, and hospital visits, seeing their face in the mirror more washed out than before, wondering as they write their commencement address who will even be paying attention in the audience, drinking from puddles, seeing what the sky says, not being able to read handwriting. As children, they received a puzzle. To the private, though, it's all an eye roll, and all so boring and shallow to see another round of legacy shut out by an offhand remark. The private doesn't ask any of the officers where they should start, and what's the matter where rebellion is kitsch and trauma is Walmart. The specialist greets the private, they each think the other is a dilettante, and later the specialist considers, what's the matter where you have 1,000 followers and not a dozen supporters? Would you sell the relics? Thank you. And we'll do a few from Citizenship. This is two Franciscan nuns chewing mint leaves while crossing the Calumet River. The paper mill's exhaust pipes interrupt the vista. Mules weighted with surge protectors, hairspray and cassettes, a riverboat of addicted morphine, addicted fucking. We're starting over. Fuck that. Chewing mint leaves while crossing the Calumet River, the paper mill's exhaust pipes interrupt the vista. Mules weighted with surge protectors, hairspray and cassettes, a riverboat of morphine-addicted ghosts on the left. Two Franciscan nuns wanted to build a hospital, but settled for organizing games of chance in their hotel rooms. They squeeze out extra acidic orange juice and excommunicate people with unpleasant names from the phone book. Two Franciscan nuns helped decorate an admiral in the pensioner's home after he'd misplaced his uniform. They blessed his pills, kissed his parakeet, and as he slept, gathered sets of his false teeth to sell at the swap meet. Here's the thing, though. A brain with blood and oxygen is better than a fish who talks. What some people see as skin discoloration is, in fact, the natural pigmentation when viewed from inside. Some newspapermen have always known this and have nothing to hide. Ah, yes. And along those lines, we'll do this one. This is one I've read a couple times now, or actually I think only once. Does it matter? It's called Painter. He walked all day to the UK, found some money on the floor, and was on his way. He knew the book was blasted, so he saw through the murk. A little sinister, a lot of charming made him do his work. Well, the painter couldn't stop painting over the image he'd made. It had been perfect before, but now it's just on display. He broke a chair and started to shout, "You have no idea what my art is all about." Now he knows all the presidents, can say them all in a row, and in India he walked real slow. Some mountains, some architects and trees. He fell on his knees and got the picture in mind, but he forgot his sketchbook and he had to leave it all behind. So now he dates a lady with rubies in her ear. The papers say he's idle, but that's not what she hears. There's no more brushes or messy oils on the floor. He's a sculptor now, and he gives his spare marble to her. So that's the story of the painter who ate hamburgers in bed, went to make the scene, and forgot where he put the thread. How you guys doing out there, huh? Having fun? Oh, I see Van left a comment a quarter of an hour ago. Sorry, Van. Yes, the unicycle story is interesting. Uh, Lars Clausen was a very nice fellow. I haven't seen hide nor hair of him since 2004. I should look him up. Completely. I still have the unicycle wheel. It's somewhere in storage. I do have it though. And I will tell a story that I've already told a few times now, but I like telling it, so I will tell it yet again. This piece that I'm going to read, I've also read a few times now, but I really like reading it, so I'm going to read it yet again. Uh, at any rate, so this is called Cruelty Free Heroin. And the reason why it's called Cruelty Free Heroin is because I have a friend on Facebook who's a lovely person, very smart person, wonderful in every possible way. They happen to also be a heroin addict, and they also happen to be vegan. And apparently, the heroin in their area they discovered is cut with lactose, and so I guess they were having some connection issues, and so they went on Facebook one day and asked if there was any way to obtain heroin in their neighborhood, and that was cruelty free. And I wrote back to this person and said, you know, from the poppy fields to your spoon, there's a really good chance that there has been some cruelty involved. With that in mind, this is called cruelty free heroin. When the guardian goes mad, the sun rains against their eardrums, indistinguishable from Morse code tapping on a copper plate. Yes, when the guardian has gone mad, they're found singing love songs to tanks, draping staircases in flags, breaking car windows to decorate their face with the glass. When the guardian goes mad, they're captured pushing a pickaxe into an LED screen and detained for threatening to throw snakes at gas station attendants. When the Guardian goes mad, people suddenly remember to turn on the AM radio and patiently follow guidelines before filing a full report. excuse me, though there are always doubters and passers-by who start conspiracies, the usual being that this is a planned distraction. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll arrive at every awards ceremony with a mirror in hand and a ribbon under their chin and make demands to review the voting process when they don't win. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll rue the day they lost control of their relationships, spending weeks hiring staff to bury paperwork they'll insist doesn't exist. If the Guardian goes mad, all their meals shall consist of orange peels pulled from chain link fences and burned coffee flavored with molded peach preserves. Though there are always doubters ready to offer an opinion of unverifiable proof, summarizing that death and maps are the only real measures of impact. Can you imagine being that fucking sick? If the Guardian cracks up, they'll spend bleak days envisioning trees committing suicide, grandmothers doing crystal meth for the first time, and gnats smeared into toothpaste. If the Guardian cracks up, 7 strangers stuck in a bank will claw at each other to seek cold air in the vault and wait for their families and firemen to arrive and dig them out. If the Guardian cracks up, pirates will walk their own planks and devour themselves once they hit the water, thrashing back their gnashing teeth, running the seas red until hunter and prey are finally won. Ignorance, arrogance. The pest control man said unto me, when I was in Japan, I bought cherry bread in a can. I opened it with a knife and slid off the wrapper. The air bubbles stayed floating in my mouth, and I rolled them around until I returned back to the West. Bliss, tolerance. The pest control man said unto me, sometimes my apartment building turns into a vending machine, and I get deposited out into the evening to provide goods and services for lucky couples with good taste and a few wandering dollars to rub together. No, I don't want to read that one. I was going to read another really long one today, but I'm not going to because I don't think it would make a ton of sense if I did that right now, which is a shame because I like it. I will, however, do a fairly long one. This is did this last week for the first time. It's called People. Oh, and I've done this before. This is sort of a technique of mine. The first part of this piece is clearly written to a certain cadence. It's actually the melody of a very old folk song. And the melody has been used many times over the years. From My Name Is John Johanna to I heard a version of The Lakes of Pontchartrain with it. Neil Young used it for Captain Kennedy, and I used it for the opening part of this. Then it goes off in many directions. At any rate, this is from 2002 from my book Radar Grain. I like this one a lot. This is called People, and it's roughly about John Walker Lind for anybody who remembers him. I am a young man closed off in this room. My name, it doesn't matter. Where I'm from, I can't tell you. I always wanted to control my destiny, not share responsibility, so I could be free. They sent me off to college so I could learn the law. I met a lot of people, each one with a different cause. I turned myself to physics and astronomy to see if I could throw away the seeds they'd put in me. I drifted down to the south and I saw it was vast. I memorized equations on the Isle ascending sand. I knew that my superiors, they were very strong. They would put me up in space and never steer me wrong. But my expectations didn't fly. They kept me on the ground. The paperwork was drafted and I was shown around. They checked my past for arrests. My retinas were scanned. I hoped there would come a day where I could take command. They made me go and lock the doors and cue the landing lights. It was a secret mission in the middle of the night. The burners started blaring. I crawled inside my suit. I knew I wouldn't come back even if they asked me to. I am a young man closed off in this room. My name, it doesn't matter. Where I'm from, I can't tell you. I always wanted to control my own destiny, wanted to go and vanish up in the slipstream. The emperor looked at the head of the horse, lifted his hand and picked out the brain, opened his mouth and smeared the remains. He dressed his servants as nymphs and pans. Little boys in the nude stayed in the pool to bite on his body while he swam. His sister said, "If breath is a blade, then desire's the cage. Claim your birthright before you're saved." Had his mother killed, made it a crime to laugh. Attacked the statue whose clothes matched his own, his bleeding fist sunk into the gold. He memorized the lives of the gods. Jezebel stole him a tunic. He began planning his burial. At night he debated with Jupiter. He saw Palatine Hill. The volcanoes were calm before the Christians burned. Diamond-tipped shovels were used to pierce the columns and arches, jewels and violins. And the violins on Palatine Hill played like birds colliding in the air. The torches flared. All the grain was set glowing. The senator's body rolled back on the sheets, his speech like a paused spasm murmuring, "I'm nursing a viper." The rest of the ward willingly succumbed immediately. In the middle of the gymnasium were booths with men in bulletproof vests giving out ballots and voluntary vaccinations to guard against contaminants. While in line, you could read pamphlets on the issues or flip to pictures of festering boils. It's slippery and strange to walk alone. Sealed lips will keep the borders closed, with no infestations will travel north. Nothing to arrest security, just a cure to keep people in the grasp of liberty. The medicine was made with pearls dissolved in vinegar. The choice was made by pulling the lever. The searchlights were made for us by the protector. A thief entered. Everyone was aroused. The wife and kids looked at the head of the house. He opened up his robe and threw a small bomb. Later, standing over the intruder's body, he thought through history and spoke his favorite quote: "I want him to feel like he's dying." Free grain for everyone who asks, free grain for everyone who enters. Wheat in exchange for marble, wheat for the state. She takes the leather, squirms in the saddle. The dust closes her eyes. I can see the red jacket from here. Two girls climb the stairs, very poised and aware. They've been here before, the Los Angeles smog against their backs. Two men arrive the next morning to drop off a pair of glasses and smear the window pane. The teenager can't make a sale, so he packs up his stereo equipment and his clock radio, exits out past the telephone pole. When they were done, they sat in the kitchen and carved up some watermelon. An hour later, they threw away their clothes. Young man in the backyard. The owner doesn't know he's there. Taking a drink from the garden hose. Drops his flashlight on the ground. He dropped his flashlight on the ground. This is one. I've read a few pieces from this already, but I've never read sort of the title piece. We'll see how it goes. Very fond of it. It's called, oh, yes. Still going? Okay. Good. This is, seeing what's out there. So. Okay. It's called Oranges. Blue and red stripes laying on her bed, throwing chicken to the fish waiting to be fed. Flying fortress in the cold yellow light, electronic geysers marking the millimeters at night. The redwoods grew out of the lakes, then the horses and cougars came from apes, and after speaking formed their shapes. They wrote an alert, they planted themselves in the desert. The sky is one meal a day floating through hoarfrost. The orator utters proclamations under acid precipitation. Bodies and mind, yours and mine, our energy is our vocation. The truth, the purified milk, came from the amalgamation. How to eat, to live, and sleep underneath, to see the silent actions and keep what we dream. Right now, a machine exists to read your thoughts, and I'm called a fool. A fool is one who follows strangers' rules. Stealing coal and jewels, feeding their fixation and altering their gestation. One man is not a nation. One woman is not a nation. My knife slipped through the ghosts of Enoch Powell and Ronald Reagan and into Abaddon's icy abdomen. This morning I went to work. There was a mouse on the road, running between cars, sliding over the snow. He got told by the acquaintance he doesn't know the real world. He told them, I don't think you know about the world outside your world. Because we've come here to annoy you. We've come here to destroy you. No flies on her, no skies on me, or our ulterior alchemy. A spirit doesn't have flesh and bones. You can see I do. A wave isn't solid, but can slice through and bury you. The floor in his basement began to crumble. Let me say I won't eat meat if it causes my brother to stumble. My brother, why do you live in a state of degradation, pressing away atoms of inspiration, continuing this dissipation? You said you formed all light and darkness, evil and peace, but you made yourself deformed and obese, a member of the secretive police. Screeching seagulls dropped their feathers on the sphere, two sets of twins announcing they're leaving here, and ferrying out to live inside the windmills. The fog is too thick to see the pinnacles. Blue, red, and gray stripes laying on her bed, silver ovens making new bread, flying fortress in the breaking midnight, electronic geysers signaling for continual flight. We'll do Silver Lace. Never let it be said that the book won't be read or that the candlesticks will be thrown out. That's like asking about your blankets and what became of them. Were they left in an alley or boxed and lent to a friend? Never let it be said that the chickens won't get fed or that the evening coffee will run cold. That's like thinking the traffic lights will never turn red or that the wire will run out before you get to return home. I'm looking at a book of photographs by Robert Frank, size cut in half. Some maps people never thought to make, some paths people never thought to take. When Berkeley was originally settled, the center of town was marked with a church and a bank. Some people never think to give thanks, or wonder if they may be wrong. I still have the cassette you made, decorated with black magic marker and duct tape, though the sound cuts out in half the songs. Never let it be said that your sister will stay unwed, or that the scissors are no longer sharpened. That's like thinking the sun will never outshine the moon, or that the heat of the spring only lives in the swell of the afternoon. How y'all doing out there? This is called the Vatican Vaults. Shelves lined with caskets, ripe fruit piled in baskets. Sugar cubes and teacups rattle as saucers are dragged across tablecloths. Outside a crowd sits, murmuring. A harmonium coughs discordantly off the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and snakeskin is carefully wrapped around palms. Two men each wear a veil, one off mauve, the other pink lady red. Gravel sits at the bottom of stained glass vials, and mink pelts are smoothed out over tiles. Three elderly spinsters raise their voices in praise, their weathered hands shaking at the sky. Gold medals tied around their waists reflect the sun directly into children's eyes. Four blind beggars fool the crowd into believing they're brothers who compete by tying knots and rope faster than any comers, the act only ending at dusk when they split their spoils. Stars roll around the moon, back and forth from end to end. Clouds erase them away when each new day begins. It's called Allison, where the blue sea and icebergs are. She's ice cream, and there she's down the hall. She uses words like everything and all. I can hear her, but I can't make out her features. I know she spends her weekends in a cement cinema making notes. The girl next to her tries to see what she wrote. Allison wonders why the guy in the elevator keeps glancing at her and why the weather keeps jumping between rain and sun every 30 minutes. She keeps saying, "Quit asking me questions. I'm innocent," as people assume she's joking. Allison wonders what are the windows thinking on a day where there's a white line down the center of the sky. Her mind cuts back to the guy in the elevator with a quick look at me, look at you, we're equals. Allison wonders if she can keep hiding while knowing they're following me. Allison writes, "What started as hopes are now observations, mostly about nature, and being young stops being fascinating once it's done." Allison looks at her bowl of spinach, and her eyes focus down on the details of one leaf, and she quietly speaks. An atheist sees this and can only think of the mud it grows from. Allison writes, "We extend grace out of our own sense of grace," and smiles because she's not sure if that's her own or something she's half remembering from 2 or 3 incarnations ago. Allison considers why her back and hands are so slippery when she's invisible, and then tells her sister, "My tongue is a graffiti sponge. I wonder if I'll have to make love in front of a judge." Allison considers that she's a character who looks and acts just like her, then draws a bath with the lights off. Allison invites her guests to walk barefoot while cherries and red confetti float out of her phone. Allison considers emptying cash registers if the security cameras lose power, but what she mostly wants are completely natural segues with no artificial blends. Make thoughts your aim or nerve blaming when all meet with you at your beginnings, but make allowances for the worn out tools and make dreams a trap for fools after they are gone. I'm considering reading one that might go really poorly, but you know. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Cool. Here we go. It's called Fingerhouse. Where should I go? Empty and without suggestion. Dry bathtub, antiseptic self. Turquoise pottery, carefully washed, not included in collection debates, and can catalog itself. A black and white television crackling on the last analog channel, transmitting drip brush pixelation to friends who haven't met before dawn, with unbent antennas and tinfoil knobs. No larger connection and no network without notice or critical thought. Pure broadcast. Where should I go? To a cricket's lake where Mona Lisa and George Washington's faces urgently run by on filmy soap transfers until they burst into digital diagonal scribbles that shock sleeping bluebirds and hunting robins, where austere diagrams of skeletons are traced onto colored chalk, onto trees and oil sticks litter the walkways, where oysters recover jewelry fallen overboard and forgotten, where flashlights find glimpses into windows and fluoride is poured into jugs of cola. Where should I go? With a shopping bag full of batteries, returning a stolen bike to its parent company, walking in between unclean delivery trucks in need of repair, while raw-toned steel whistle air floats on wisps of strawberry hair, and accelerated voices in nonsensical 10-second annoyances. A magician perfecting an illusion which ends with them curling up and sliding down a tree, then pretending to be asleep while assessing what the crowd seems to think. Then a throne is carried on, seating a man in a parchment crown and wrapped in beach towels. Where should I go? Into a kitchen with aluminum knives and nurses in white lab coats and blue rubber gloves, rolls of tissue paper and unfolded t-shirts and personalized engraved nameplates. Where should I go? Knees to the chest, laying on the cool ground. Scissors, heels pressed together. Toes toward the sun. Back to the cool ground. And this is called Citizenship. Well, it's easy for your mom to spend Friday night trying to lecture the TV while half asleep, continuously saying, let it all breathe, when she's not the one out there braving the wind, trying to walk across that wing with just a 4-foot stick of balsa wood to help her keep balance. The Tsar's personal physician put the head of surgery in bed, called his staff around, and explained that this could be the end, but he's not really certain because he's just been too depressed at the prospect. Or at least that's what you thought he said, but you were quite distracted by the kissing couple on the observation deck. And you got yelled at for sleeping during a meeting by the head of marketing, but you didn't feel any guilt as you explained that you'd been sin-free since the night before, and the head of marketing agreed and closed the door to talk about opportunities for advancement. And the private still cannot figure out how to break ranks or how to help your mom fill out a loan application or get a new sticker for her license plates, and the two of you prepare for their weekend leave by getting hair extensions and hitchhiking back to the hospital. You've been reading diaries, you've been reading autobiographies, you've been writing long treatises out on graph paper, you've been condescending to your enemies, you've been giving easy answers that argue there are no easy answers, you've been running forensics on untabulated statistics, you've been staring at a man buzzsawing down a tree and thinking anyone but me, you've been miming in a marching band, not playing a single note all season, you've been looking at the apple in your hand, hoping to know how you'll find another, and you have stolen mail from your mother. You've been looking at a fence thinking, enough of this. You've been back to the hospital, staying after hours in the maternity ward, laying newly minted silver rectangles on newborns' chests. You've been counseling dry drunks. You're nearer to sovereignty, and whoever picks apples for free. You've been painting large unfinished arcs on your foyer walls while inexpensive new clothes. You've been nearer to sovereignty, and whoever spreads apple seeds for free. You've been barefoot while feeding skunks. You've been seeing your reflection in cardboard. Let it all breathe is the reminder that you whisper to yourself when you're out walking across the wing, watching flotsam from Beechcraft Model 18s rotate overhead, amazed how machinery so heavy can defy gravity. Let it all breathe is the reminder that you whisper to yourself when you're out walking across the wing, watching jettison pollution floating in the Indian Ocean in utter disbelief how the laws of nature can be defied so carelessly. You're a wing walker. Closer to sovereignty, closer to picking apples for free, closer to crashing the fence, closer to opening books. You're a wing walker trying to make a future full of stars while feeling some claw marks. You're a wing walker closer to sovereignty, closer to spreading apple seeds for free, closer to swimming naked, and closer to learning languages. You're a wing walker. You fucking wing walker! Trying to make a future full of stars while wishing you weren't feeling so far. They found me, though! Realistically resembling myself, fully alive in a different year. Questions were drawn to determine how I appeared there. I explained I went to sleep because I couldn't function being constantly awake. Theta waves turning back on themselves, spindle waves with no chance to crest, and slow waves never coming close to arriving. A wing walker craves immunity to maintain sovereignty, feeds on concentration to maintain sovereignty, brushes memories to maintain sovereignty, and theta waves are just the start. Spindle waves stand you straight up, slow waves safely deposit you back on the shore. A wing walker needs clear vision to be free of poison. You have to know where the lights are you have to know where to turn on the lights before you go to sleep. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go home and go to sleep. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go home and go to sleep. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go home and go to sleep. Now then, now then, now then. The weather is in the sea, gravityless moment caught and dotted with cherry trees and colored pencils. There is very little in life that matches what I feel when you smile at what I whisper back to you, We're in the room and we're out of nowhere, looking at the inlet together in letters and circles, like a slit in the curtain, like a fluttering bird ready to bathe, like an oxidized copper fountain. I want to be with you always, all the time, like a white shirt with a fresh grass stain, like a streetlight breathing air, like waving from the top of a ladder. You plan all the plans, always, all the time, like a strawberry on the counter, like fingernails washed clean, like a bee being curious of a new flower. You are adorable, always, all the time, like pickled ginger on salmon, like a workbench in the sun, like an invention imagined. We are here and with each other always, all the time, like a cat cornering a grasshopper, like a licked stamp pressed with a thumb, like a rectangle with unbroken corners. You are mine, I am yours, always, all the time. Like a coral pink butterfly heading to me. You're looking through your jeweled eyes. I'm waiting for your surprise. A birthday card, an aquarium hung on the wall, a memory in a vein swimming around, arriving late to hear a favorite song, flying like a honeybee that counts the flap of its wings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keeping everything else alive. Bubbles on the honeycomb coming together in unusually warm weather. Honeybee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keeping everything else alive. And now this is going to be the last piece. Um, this is I've never read this before. Might go really badly. That's okay. This is it's called Fingernail in My Salad. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Here we come, it's dark out. Hit the ship in the tall cloud. Smile hard in the fast flight. Cornflower on the far right. We don't have a backyard. Jack of clubs, the fold card. Dance with shape and rhythm. Don't forget precision. There is a super slide that doesn't get water sprayed on it. There is a baby born, but it gets phased out with it. I bought a lot of mail, put my aunt in jail, sold the fence for horses, peppermint, of course, it's July! The ground is muddy and there are bees bigger than I ever imagined. I figured they were so big because other bees would just hatch and fall right off of them. Calculus on the lettuce. Grandma is cooking breakfast. Hit balloon with fingertips. Send it back when you get to it. Aluminum in the valley. Say hello, Chris and Cassie. Fingernail is my toothpick. Making scenes for the fruit pit. There were hideous combinations like a red blazer with gray slacks at the church fashion show, unless the clothes were designed to annoy, in which it was quite purposeful. They had gifts to be given to each guest. They could choose between trampolines and trombones or daffodils. Crows and geraniums got served oatmeal on the fine linens and had their picture taken for use in next year's program. We made our way to the trampolines, and someone had a flag tied around their neck like it was a cape. Some water shot out of a tree stump, and I want a cactus to be replanted somewhere else. I remember 1942, the war came and away they flew. Buy bonds was the cry of the land. Sons and daughters joined to join hands. In a field here, a swimming hole there, let's build a new entrance. Can there be a social gathering place too? A gazebo, you mean? Yes, a gazebo to drink lemonade and overhear conversation. Then of course we'll have a gazebo. Grunt, grunt, say goodbye. Yawn, 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 it's time to sleep. Yes, it's time to sleep, everybody. So grab the one you like to sleep with the most. We're going to start over with that. I like that. So, yes, it's time to sleep, everybody. So grab the one you like to sleep with the most. Hold them tight and say, Baby, let's drift. And to get you in the drifting mood, fall asleep with me, little angel. Let's fall asleep and have a wonderful night. For the sleep we share will be something we treasure forever. Come lay down with me, because it's dreamy dream time. We sit by the creek and close in the shine. The moon is bright beyond any device. Quiet, quiet down and hear the crickets. Examine and sift. Take your feet and lift it. Take us back by way of dew, down to some Spanish music. Verde, Verde quietly. We remember for next time. Da 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 dum dum, da 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 dum, dum dum da dum, da 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 dum dum, da 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 dum, da 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 dum dum.
Life is but a dream in the quarantine stream.
We'll be back next week, friends. Enjoy. God bless. Stay home. Stay safe. And I have been Richard Millett. I still am Richard Millett, in fact. And if you are at all interested in any of this, you can go to fluxlifeinc.com and see all my books and films and all the wonderful things that I have done over the years. Enjoy and have a lovely week. Be good to each other. Nighty night.